Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. Let's start with this story. Russian border regions call off Victory Day parades. If you're not familiar with Victory Day in Russia, it's May 9th, and this is the holiday that Russians used to celebrate the Soviet victory over Nazi Germany. And for propaganda reasons, this is Russia's most important holiday, because it allows Russians to feel like they're the good guys. Never mind the rest of Russian history in which they're attacking their neighbors and committing genocide. 80 years ago, they fought the Nazis, therefore they're good people. Anytime Russia invades or attacks anyone today, you also can just call those people Nazis. You don't have to question it, you don't have to think too hard about it. Russians are always the good guys. Anyone they're fighting are always Nazis. But history tells a different story. Soviet Russia had no problem with actual Nazis when they wanted to invade Poland. In fact, when Hitler approached Stalin, Stalin thought it was a great idea. They divided up Poland in 1939. Soviet Russia had no problem with the Nazis when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands, Belgium, France, when they were bombing London. Soviet Russia only had a problem with Nazis once the Nazis stabbed them in the back and attacked Soviet Russia. So officially, Russian authorities are saying due to security concerns, they can't have these parades in Kursk and Belgorod, but Ukraine is not going to attack civilians during a parade in Kursk. Attacking civilians is what the Russians do. But more than likely, they just don't have the equipment, tanks or armored vehicles to run down the streets in Belgorod and Kursk. They need to save these for the actual war or have them in the parade held in Moscow. And this is absurd that Russia is still insisting on having this parade while they're fighting the largest land war since World War II. But they got to have their parades in order to prance out their prettiest white boys. You're never going to see a Chechen or a Tatar or another minority of the Russian Federation going down Red Square in Moscow. Those guys need to be in trenches in Ukraine, and the pretty white boys are going to show their best uniforms on May 9th. But here's my crazy idea, guys. When is Ukraine going to launch their spring counteroffensive? And I'm just floating an idea out there. I think they should do it a couple days before May 9th. Maybe May 5th or 6th. It would be hilarious to watch Russia's front lines collapsing while their highest military leadership and Putin himself are wasting time having a parade in Moscow. Just an idea. I think somebody in Ukraine has already thought of this. The next story we should talk about concerns the president of France, Macron. But before we talk about this, I want to welcome back a channel sponsor. The sponsor of today's video is Surfshark VPN, and Surfshark VPN is an app and browser extension that encrypts all of your data while online to add an extra layer of protection to keep your personal information safe from hackers and trackers. Aside from its military-grade encryption, why is Surfshark the best VPN on the market? And it's because it's the only VPN that allows installation on an unlimited number of devices, all on one account for one price. Surfshark can be great for sending and receiving files securely online or finding great shopping deals. But something I like about Surfshark is when using various streaming services such as Netflix, it allows you to unlock content in other countries. For example, here in the United States on Netflix, they don't have The Office, an old comedy show I occasionally enjoy rewatching. I think currently it's exclusive on Peacock TV, and I don't want to pay for Peacock TV. So what I can do is pull up Surfshark and change my country location to, for example, France. Then all I have to do is refresh the page and boom, I now have access to all 9 seasons of The Office and I can watch it whenever I want. Likewise, I can switch my country location to other countries around the world in order to unlock great TV shows and movies to watch. There is no risk in trying Surfshark VPN as they have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Use the promo code JakeBro and sign up today and get 83% off, plus an extra 3 months for free. Thank you again to Surfshark for being a sponsor. Definitely check them out if you're looking for a good VPN. Now, concerning the president of France, he decided he wanted to make his opinion public on China and Taiwan. So what exactly did Macron say? And here's a couple quotes, I guess, from an editorial that he published. The worst thing would be to think that we Europeans should follow suit on this subject and adapt to the American rhythm and a Chinese overreaction. Okay. His remarks on Taiwan start with a plea to sympathize with the Chinese position. Like the Europeans are concerned with our unity, the Chinese are concerned with their unity, and Taiwan, from their point of view, is a component of this. Okay, there's a million things to say here. The first one is you could swap out Chinese with Russian, and it's the exact same position. Russian claims that they are unifying their people by attacking and invading Ukraine, that they're bringing together what once was with historical borders. So Macron doesn't want to think about that, but let's go ahead and talk about the figures of Taiwan. Taiwan is an economic powerhouse, one of the 4 tigers of Asia, and the population of the island is 23 million people. If China were to launch a full-scale invasion to take the island by force, we're more than likely looking at more than 1 million dead. This would be horrifying for the world to watch. And China, the Communist Party of China, has never controlled Taiwan. For the Chinese people to be together, that's a matter of debate. Because the Nationalist Party that retreated to Taiwan after losing a civil war, they're the only continuous government that has held all the territories of China. So it's impossible to claim that the Communist Chinese Party should get back something that was never theirs. They've never controlled the island of Taiwan. So that's the first point I want to make. The second one is concerning the island of Taiwan and their population. It's bigger than Romania, bigger than the Netherlands, bigger than Greece, bigger than Sweden. This is not some inconsequential territory that no one's going to notice if China just reabsorbs. So would Macron of France be okay with China taking Romania or China taking Sweden? You might say that's absurd. Romania and Sweden are members of NATO. They're members of the EU. Macron thinks that what's ours is ours, what's theirs is theirs. Okay, let's talk about Australia, because the population of Australia is 25 million, only slightly bigger than Taiwan. Australia is an ally of the United States, and Australia is not a member of NATO or the EU. China has 1 billion people. If China decided they wanted to make the Australian continent their colony, they have 1 billion people. Maybe in the future, 10, 20, 30 years down the road, China just says Australia is ours. Now, of course, the United States would come to the defense of Australia. But would the French? Would Macron? Because according to that op-ed, he's saying no. If China wants something, just let them have it. We don't want to militarily get involved. We don't want to participate in sanctions. As opposed to following America's lead or the American rhythm, what was the position of France back in 1940 when the Germans were occupying half their country? It's important to be empathetic to people like us. And there's only 2 kinds of countries in the world right now. There's democracies and there's everything else. You either elect representatives to serve the people, or you're in something else that probably is not to the greatest benefit of the people of that country. So what's happening here is Xi's immediate goal is to try and draw Europe away from America, and he sees Macron as a useful idiot to do this purpose. So when Macron went to China, this was a charm offensive from President Xi to wow and impress the president of France, to convince him in the future, don't participate in economic sanctions should we take military action against Taiwan. I don't think anyone really expects France to militarily get involved, but to at least participate in sanctions in order to put pressure on the Chinese to halt their full-scale invasion should this happen. This is the bare minimum that France could do, and Macron is saying, yeah, I don't know if we really want to do this. And there's just something about President Xi being the new emperor of China, possibly the most powerful man in the world, in charge of a nation of over 1 billion people. There are just world leaders who see a man like this and everything he has, and they're jealous. They look at him with envy, wishing they were that powerful, that wealthy, that dominant in the world. But here's the joke online. When you can't surrender unconditionally because it's not your country. Maybe I'm being too harsh on Macron. There's already members of the French government trying to walk this editorial back and state, of course, they support democracies around the world. As long as North America remains democratic and Europe remains democratic, we have to work together in order to stop authoritarians, stop dictators from invading their neighbors, because that's what dictators do. They're never going to stop invading their neighbors. The next story we should follow up on concerns those classified US military documents about Ukraine that leaked online. And apparently they first leaked on a Minecraft Discord server, and no one noticed them for weeks. So the secret documents were dated to late February. They're already 6 weeks old. And this was sitting in a Minecraft Discord server for a month, and no one noticed. So my initial reaction to this is, this might actually be good news that there isn't somebody at the Pentagon deliberately leaking information to help the Russians. More than likely, this was a US service member who plays Minecraft and wanted to impress one of their buddies by sharing a classified document through Discord. It's that stupid. But the user who posted the documents on March 1st deleted their Twitter and Discord accounts shortly after. So yeah, I think the NSA is going to find this guy or woman, and they're going to have a very bad week. But the leaked documents do show how deep the US has compromised Russian intelligence. Once again, I'm not going to go into the details of the documents, but this is what experts are saying. Leaked classified documents detailing US national security secrets regarding Ukraine, China, and the Middle East reportedly show how deeply the Pentagon has infiltrated Russian intelligence services. So I'm sure there are dozens of people inside the Kremlin feeding information to Western intelligence agencies, one, because they object to the war, but more than likely they're just trying to save themselves. When the Putin regime collapses, they might be able to be granted immunity from prosecutions if they were feeding information to Western intelligence. And on Russian state TV, they still don't really know how to talk about or respond to these documents. Here was an interesting interaction in which a Russian propagandist accidentally told the truth.
В пятницу действительно мы отнеслись к этим материалам излишне легкомысленно. И почему это произошло? Во-первых, действительно, те данные о потерях, которые были продемонстрированы на документов действительно оказались, скорее всего, прифотошопленными. Я нашел первоначальную версию этих материалов, и там, в общем, российские потери обозначались как в несколько раз больше, чем украинские, что, наверное, больше похоже на правду. По крайней мере, признаков фотошопа там нету.
Чего? Российские потери больше
Я такого,
украинских,
да,
это похоже на правду. Об этом
пятницу действительно.
Oh, he messed up. So online, there's two versions of these documents. The original, and then one that has been obviously photoshopped by the Russians to show that their casualties are lower than the Ukrainians. So this guy talking about how there's two versions accidentally admitted that Russian losses are higher than Ukrainian losses, and everybody else on set freaks out over this, saying that's closer to the truth. We all know what's true, but you can't say that on Kremlin State TV. And concerning these documents, like I said, they're already 6 weeks old, and Ukraine has announced they're altering their military plans after the document leak. Hopefully, this was a one-time occurrence and there isn't a security compromise somewhere in the Pentagon. I do hope it is just some idiots playing Minecraft trying to impress his friends, but I think the most damage this did is to the credibility of the United States. How can our allies have trust in the Pentagon when a leak such as this occurred? And concerning the front lines, Russia is already preparing for this spring counteroffensive. They're still trying to take the city of Bakhmut, but everywhere else, they're not really pushing like they were 2 months ago. So 2 months ago, when you looked at their daily losses, they were losing 800, 900, 1,000 soldiers a day. Now they're only losing about 400 or 500. And when we check in with the city of Bakhmut still holds, I guess. The Russians do control about 60 to 70% of the city, but Ukraine is not backing out. And they're still choosing to fight street by street, building by building. Once again, not to hold the city. I think they're eventually going to completely pull out. But they're just trying to distract the Russians. If the Russians are still focused on taking the city of Bakhmut, then they're not focused on preparing defense lines elsewhere where the real Ukrainian counterattack is going to occur. So the mission of the soldiers in here: inflict as many casualties as you can, hold on as long as you can, and deny Russia the propaganda win before Ukraine launches their spring counteroffensive. And I don't really even need to talk about the spring counteroffensive myself. I can just show you clips of the Russians panicking about it. So here's Prigozhin himself telling, I guess maybe some of his soldiers, that they need to get ready and they need to take this very serious.
Информации с Украины, по информации различных наших источников, ориентировочно украинцы должны начать наступление. Это наступление они сейчас пока не начинают, ждут, когда окончательно просохнет почва, может быть, ждут какие-то дополнительные прибамбасы, ракеты, бронетехнику или еще что-то. Без разницы, что они ждут. У них собрано порядка 200, по некоторым источникам до 400 тысяч личного состава. Недооценивать это нельзя. Информация.
So here's Prigozhin saying that Ukraine has 400,000 soldiers ready and they need to not underestimate them. Here's another clip. I'll put it in the pinned comment down below if you want to watch it. But let me just read to you what this, I think a DPR fighter is saying. It is clear that this will be a very serious pressure and we will have to endure an enormous counteroffensive if it goes in several directions at once. At the same time, we have to understand that in addition to the strike force, Ukraine has about 600,000 or more people under arms. It is clear that not all of them are on the front line, but these are the reserves that they can deploy wherever they advance. So this is hilarious, what's been happening on Kremlin state TV the last week or two. And what they're doing is they're trying to manage the expectations of the Russian people. So they're really talking up Ukraine's capabilities. All of these Western tanks that have been delivered, Ukraine has 400,000, 600,000 troops, and Russia. They're trying to lower the expectations of the Russian defense forces in the event they're going to have to retreat again. So what's going to happen here is if Ukraine chooses to push in the Zaporizhia region, they have to get to either Melitopol, Berdansk, or Mariupol. If they can get to the coastline and cut off this road and rail network, then all of the Russian forces west of it won't be able to get resupplied. They're going to have to retreat back to Crimea. So Kremlin State TV is trying to talk up the Ukrainians and lower expectations for Russian forces, so in the event they do get their asses kicked and they retreat back to Crimea, the Russian people will continue to support Putin and continue to support this war. We'll know a lot more in a month. So how is Russia preparing for this spring counteroffensive? And Russia is adding cope cages to their multiple launch rocket systems. They've also been digging trenches on the beaches in Crimea. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Let's just move on. We've got some good news. Russia and Ukraine have exchanged hundreds of prisoners of war. This is why it's so important for Ukraine to capture alive as many Russian soldiers as they can, so they can then trade these men one for one in order to get Ukrainian prisoners of war returned home. So here's a video put out today by Ukraine's Ministry of Defense, and this is the moment that a Ukrainian POW returned to Ukraine and was allowed to call his mother.
Мамулька, блядь, виїхали, але очікуємо західної допомоги і найближчим часом почнеться нормальний контрнаступ, який дасть змогу нам звільнити абсолютно всю територію України. А разом з тим ми повернемо в Україні, наших українських хлопців і дівчат додому. Слава Україні! Героям слава! Мама, что ты скажи, мамулька, а что там, хлопчик чи дівчинка?
Координаційний штаб зустріли вашого синочка, він вже в Україні. Зараз ми його повеземо в шпиталь, його там переодінуть, доглянуть, йому дадуть телефон, і він вам зателефонує. Все добре, бережіть себе і онуків.
Я тебе дуже сильно люблю. Всім привіт, Кирило.
Ну, мамочка, бережіть себе, бачите? У вас два свята. І онучка народилася, син повернувся.
A happy reunion for this one Ukrainian family. Final clip I have for you is put out by the UK's Ministry of Defense. There are lots of instructors and trainers from Canada, New Zealand, Australia, other countries in the United Kingdom training Ukrainian forces. And this is a bus taking these Ukrainian defenders back to Ukraine after completing training in the UK. And this is how they were sent off. Very well done. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.